Now, June 24th is going to be the very date with the debut of all 3 episodes for the first half of Ironheart as a series on Disney+. We already know that this show is something that Disney and Marvel Studios have been desperately trying to hide at all costs available, hence why they only dropped the trailer just a few weeks ago, just before the release date on the 24th of June, which goes to show you that their marketing campaign is abysmal. It's another shred of proof that they really have zero confidence in this thing, and hence why you're seeing little to no TV spots on television or on the internet right now for Ironheart. This is exactly why, because they actually dialed back millions upon millions of dollars for their marketing campaign. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, another major hint that this show is an abysmal failure is the fact that they are dropping the first half of the show in one whole day, followed by 3 episodes every single week, leading into July, just before the release of Fantastic Four. What's interesting, though, has a lot more to do with the test screenings, and the third one that actually was a bigger failure than the previous 2, alright? We already know that the test screenings for Ironheart have been a disaster, not just for Kevin Feige over at Marvel, but also for Bob Iger over at the Disney Company. Now, focusing on the ending sequence of Ironheart, this is where things begin to really go out of control, and it really makes you realize about how they desperately tried to recreate Ironheart, aka Riri Williams, as Tony Stark / Iron Man in specific scenes, and how they tried to basically copy and paste certain scenarios in a very different way, though, however. Let's get into the overall details about that. Now, with the Walt Disney Company and Marvel Studios desperately heading into damage control over the current status of the MCU and the fandom, one significant development going on now involves more to do with Ironheart's ending scene, that test screenings, of course, labeled it as the worst moment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, it turns out that Marvel had shot, get this, 3 endings for Ironheart, and the one that is now part of the final cut is already going through a serious supervision by Marvel producers and those at the Disney Company after they had the worst test screening of all for Marvel as a whole. The ending sequence focuses on Riri Williams enhancing her suit even further by modifying both the legs, arms, and the shoulders, and even the helmet. It's at this point where she flies out a window and heads over to a club in Chicago and surrounded by clubbers. This is said to be inspired by the scene in which Tony Stark was at a club drinking while in his suit in Iron Man 2. However, in this scenario, the club that Ironheart is featured in, of course, is actually featuring Riri Williams breakdancing while in the suit to rap music, and in the background, and even rapping along with the song used in the background of the club. Now, this ending scene by the creators was used for both comedic relief and to also showcase Ironheart's brand new suit. Now, screeners saw this as a terribly failed attempt to copy the Iron Man 2 club scene in which Tony dances in his suit briefly. However, it was just the scene itself that screeners despised. It was the choreography, the lackluster CGI for the suit in certain shots, and the abysmal acting that was done by Dominque Thorne, who played Riri Williams in the shots. Now, the club scene lasts, of course, roughly around 4.5 minutes before the power goes out at the club, and a dark, mysterious, shadowy figure is seen floating outside of a window and is seen as a silhouette in front of a rising moon. Already, the Disney Company is seriously considering scrubbing this scene and to combine the 2 other endings into one massive ending. The downside that Kevin Feige is enraged over about this is that this will actually in turn erase the mysterious new foe that is seen outside the window that would have been the only mysterious aspect of the ending for Ironheart that would have generated some kind of conversation. Now, guys, let me just say one thing about this. Now, the fact that they actually wanted to use the ending, or are actually using the ending where it stands right now, to be an inspiration from the Iron Man 2 scene in which Tony Stark, is in the suit, he's got the helmet retracted, he's dancing, he's drinking, he's doing stuff like that, and War Machine is looking at him as an embarrassment in the process. Basically, they did a copy and paste of that, but in the worst way that you could imagine. The fact that she's in this club, she's of course dancing or breakdancing to rap music, she's even rapping along with the actual song, and it came off as very cringy, it came off as very lackluster when it came to the overall presentation, the execution, the acting was very abysmal, and look, it wasn't about the nature of the scene and what it was all about, it was how it was created. Let's be very specific about this. So the lead up, of course, of the scene goes to a moment where you do see this shadowy figure, and it makes you wonder, what new foe/villain is floating outside of that window? Who the heck knows? I know some people are going to say, maybe Mephisto? Who knows? But that's basically what they were teasing, a brand new foe, a new villain, if you will. And I don't know why they would insert Mephisto into a scene like that. It makes no sense to me. That's just a guess coming from me. But that shadowy figure sitting outside the window, floating outside that window, was basically Kevin Feige's overall way of generating interest for what comes after Ironheart Season 1, alright? And I don't think it's going to work at all, because this ending is most likely going to be cancelled, as I pointed out just before. They are already desperately considering combining the other two endings into one ending and putting that at the tail end of the show. Alright, now moving on, the Ironheart breakdance scene in the club was also described to have multiple continuity errors in the scene. Get this, screeners also noted that certain clubbers were seen wearing different clothing 2 seconds apart, and various CGI elements that were drastically unfinished for Ironheart's suit while dancing were witnessed. Screeners also saw this as the scene that would go viral across social media and mocked universally by Marvel fans, and would be the greatest embarrassment to the MCU. Not just over what Ironheart does, but its presentation and the way it was executed on film was something that was best noted as very cringeworthy and even outperforming subpar scenes in She-Hulk, even worse than the She-Hulk twerking scene. Now, with Megan Thee Stallion, you guys may recall that. The latest Disney emergency meeting, however, that took place was all about re-editing all 6 episodes of Ironheart at last minute, since it's far too late to reshoot anything, and that is being done right now to re-edit the entire series. Now, again, do I think that this would actually be worse than the twerking scene in She-Hulk? I don't really think so. I think that that's just the opinion coming from the screeners, but one thing is for certain is that this could very well and potentially be the worst scene out of the entire MCU when you combine everything together, if they leave this in the actual cut, which I highly doubt they will at this point. If Marvel has any kind of common sense, if Disney has any kind of common sense, they will go through their Hail Mary attempt by combining the other 2 ending scenes into one massive ending scene and just throw it in there and call it a day, even if it sacrifices the mysterious new foe that they're setting up for in the MCU. Overall, I think that at the end of the day as well, nobody cares about Ironheart, nobody's really going to take the time and effort to watch this thing. Sure, you're going to have reviewers and critics like myself that will actually take part in watching the episodes to kind of give you a scene-by-scene, explanation of what's going on, but overall, Riri Williams is a character that nobody asked for, a character that was only created back in 2016, mind you. She hasn't been around for decades upon decades, but overall, guys, I would love to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, about what you heard about Ironheart as a whole, about the actual series, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.